Hello, everybody, also from our side. We're really happy to be here today and to talk with you and to present to you the joys of being software only, where we are facing more and more issues in the IT market with increasing hardware prices, the right cloud strategy, what is with the workload on-prem. So our topic for today, as Julia already mentioned, is resilient on-prem IT without login. So that a way out of or a way into how cost efficient and you can build your IT strategy where you can be flexible on the hypervisor and also on the hardware side of things. As Julia mentioned, my name is Tobias. I'm the director of sales EMEA. I'm running a team of 5 people. We are based across Europe. We are fully remotely working. And I'm the main responsibility guy for you in the Baltics and also in the rest of the Eastern European part. So I'm your main contact here. And maybe, Steve, you would also like to say 1 or 2 words?
Yeah, thanks, Toby. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Bedison. I'm one of the pre-sales engineers at StorMagic. I provide technical support to Tobias and his team in EMEA. And looking forward to this session today. I'll be sort of translating what Tobias will be going through on the slides into the demo. So there's quite a few things I'm going to be showcasing today. So yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Steve. So I'm more or less then from the dark side, so to speak, from the sales side, and Steve is your first contact person when it comes to technical topics, but I'm also striving for accuracy as much as possible when it comes to technical questions. But as I don't have any clue or cannot go deep enough with you, gentlemen and ladies, then go to Steve. He definitely knows the answer.
Try to.
Okay, let's dig into it. Let's kick it off. For us as a software vendor, which is now 20 years in business, so we have this year our 20 years anniversary with StorMagic. We are 100% software focused. We started in 2006 with our software-defined storage solution as vSAN, which you may heard before. This is our proven technology when it comes to high availability on the storage side of things. And this was also the case, or the topic of being hardware, to have the right flexibility when it comes to hardware, was also the case when it comes to software-defined storage, and these times in the past. And this is still, let's say, increasing at the end. So imagine in a world where you have to build a sovereign IT infrastructure, what is best for you in that case to make the best out of what you have already, or what you can now buy nowadays, which suits your budget, and maybe you can put the cherry on top of the hardware then with the right software solution to get out more of what you have already in your IT environment when it comes to x86 servers, for example. So the core thing here is to give you something in hand with software to be flexible as possible. The other issue we are facing at the moment is also since the end of 2023, and the beginning of 2024, with the acquisition from VMware by Broadcom, which was also hurting ourselves because our software-defined storage as vSAN product was in 95% installed on ESX, on the ESX hypervisor from VMware this time. It's still the case, but in 2027 we're definitely facing another issue when we are missing our Essentials Plus package, Standard and Standard Enterprise. In 2027 the world will, I guess, change again. So there's another topic arising at the horizon. What is coming next for your sovereignty strategy when it comes to your on-premise IT? So one answer could be, instead of running it on your own on-premise, why not go into the cloud? But this opens up another, strange route, another pitfall maybe at the end, because not every application, not every workload is really designed for be running in the cloud. So you definitely need at some point, in some cases, something on premise for the dedicated workloads you are responsible for, or which is really, really critical at the end for your company you're working for. So where is the data then being created, or what is our main strategy behind StorMagic here? Where do we fit best? We are definitely nothing for being run in a cloud environment. We are also not designed for being installed in a large data center. We are in between. We are definitely addressing all the facilities or branches where you need on-premise data workloads, remote office, edge locations like a production line, some use cases in a larger hospital where you have, for example, an X-ray system where the data which is created from this X-ray system needs something on-premise locally, because it's not allowed for this X-ray system to be run or to be maintained in the local centralized data center of this hospital. It needs to be separate, for example. Other remote sites like larger construction sites, which are going ages. For example, Airport of Berlin, which is a bad example, I know, but this was a really long time construction site. Windmill farms, for example, onshore, offshore, oil platforms, that kind of stuff, restaurants, law firms, hotels, small, medium businesses. We need something localized. What we would like then to avoid here, and what we are taking care about at the end, and which is key next or besides to your backup strategy, which definitely you can use then cloud infrastructure, the large data center as well, is to have something on premise where you can avoid downtime, where you maybe are under cost pressure because hardware pricings are increasing. The cloud is maybe also not the right tool in this setup, and could also become very expensive because you have to pay for workloads as well, for data space, for CPUs, etc. But when you're then thinking about, again, back to the roots, on-prem infrastructure, how can I be flexible? At the moment, the world is changing really rapidly. So is Lenovo now offering the best solution for me, price performance wise, from an x86 server perspective? Is it maybe a kind of a niche player like Snook, for example, Hive Radar, or even then the other guys next to Lenovo like HPE, Dell, and so on? And how can I scale then flexible as possible? These are the bottom line problems we are seeing and what we are addressing with our end user customers since 20 years. So the beauty of being a software only product here is that we can we can play with all the big boys, HPE, Dell, Lenovo, Supermicro, all the others, which is x86 based, or even some hidden champions like I've already mentioned, Snook, sorry, and Hive Radar, for example. We are also, this is the beauty for being at StorMagic, that we didn't care about which storage type you're using, HDD, SSD, NVMe, which type of RAM, how many, blah, blah, blah. This is not our business. Use whatever fits best for your on-prem solution. And even when it comes to the choice of of your hypervisor, you can still go and run with your VMware installation. If you're forced to be moving away from VMware and you need to go to Microsoft with Hyper-V, for example, hey, or even StorMagic is able to run on Hyper-V as well. Proxmox support is here since a few months officially, but we are running on Proxmox over now 1.5 years. And based on the fact that we've, as I've described in the beginning, faced another issue, or our own issue with the acquisition from VMware by Broadcom, we've already came up 2 years ago with our own hypervisor solution, which is evolving very rapidly. And Steve is guiding you through the next bits and pieces which are already implemented. And I can only tell you at the moment, but we're working on an official roadmap version for you it is becoming more and more interesting in the next couple of months at the latest by the end of this year. So we are striving here for perfection as well. For sure, we cannot overtake 30 years of development of a VMware company, but at the end, what we are famous about is to give you a very proven technology that simply works. We are built for addressing the HCI, so the hyper converged infrastructure topics in field, on premise, without hidden complexity. And because we are also a mid-sized software company out of the UK, so our headquarters is in Bristol, so we are a European company since 20 years now in business. We definitely understand with our 80 people around the globe, the bits and pieces and really the detail of the medium businesses. Sure, we also have our enterprises out there, but our core business is definitely the SMB, or when it comes to multiple enterprise edge locations where we are making the difference for some end user customers in the enterprise business. And we are running at the moment, roughly speaking, over 60,000 installations out there with our team. And for sure with our system integrator partners as well. We have one good case study in place from the Telegrupp, which is based in Tallinn in Estonia. This is one of our end user customers where we have an official case study out of it. And the challenge here was to have an on-premise high availability solution on disaster recovery to avoid disaster recoveries because the process was too long for the company. They don't want to go with the VMware vSAN solution there at this time. They are customers since, let me double check. I don't have the dates here, but roughly speaking, for 4 to 6 years at this time. And they also were facing the increasing of demands and performance availability. So the solution for them was to go with the VMware installed base and to use as vSAN for modernizing their infrastructure for a hyper-converged deployment based on Lenovo servers and NVMEs, plus VMware and vSphere for the SQL, Exchange, Kubernetes, what they need to run on-prem in their infrastructure IT. So the result at the end for Telegrupp was here to have a 50% higher performance of their business critical applications. They reduce the failover scenarios by far, because with vSAN, I go to the slides in a minute in the next minute. Faster provisioning virtual machines, and they were more predictable when it comes to the overall reliability of the infrastructure. So Daniel Lemberg, the statement is definitely clear. They're really happy about running with us, going with us, because it was very easy, very quick to understand. And in 20 years of business, more or less, the overall on the bottom line, StorMagic is known as a hassle-free, and how's the terminology? Steve, maybe you can help me. What is it?
Sorry, Toby, what were you saying?
Install, set and forget. Set and forget.
Set and forget.
The set and forget terminology here. Yeah.
Simple configuration, easy to set up, set and forget.
Exactly.
No human interaction required. When systems go down, it all just comes back up and works.
Exactly. So if you're interested in case study, Julia will share with you a link after or at some point in during the webinar, or scan the QR code and feel free to browse and read through the case study whenever you are ready. So our StorMagic portfolio we have 3 products in our portfolio. In the center, you see Edge Control. This is our advanced monitoring management tool. As vSAN, our proven, absolute, fantastic, reliable, foundational product our software product when it comes to software-defined storage, high availability across multiple platforms and hypervisors as well. And if you would like to go full stack, then we are inviting you to go with our SVHCI solution, the most efficient, cost-efficient HCI solution out there in the market. To give you a short overview from a technical perspective where we are playing or what is SVZAN, to set a bit the stage for the live demo later on with Steve. Imagine you can use every x86 server of your choice. Doesn't matter which brand, which type of storage you're putting into the server, and even which hypervisor you're using. As I mentioned before, VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox, or other Linux distributions, for example. Then we need a little small virtual machine on top of this hypervisor where we take control over the storage you would like to have high available across 2 nodes. And for us, it doesn't matter what you are running then on in terms of applications on this hypervisor. Is it then a classical virtual machine in ESX or a Hyper-V host, a container? Doesn't matter to us. And then you do the other or the same thing on the other side as well and have a synchronous mirroring between these 2 nodes on a storage layer from our perspective. So you can then use the choice of having then VMware or Hyper-V with a failover scenario very easily, because everything needs to be stored somewhere. And to avoid this silo of having a SAN solution and to move it into the x86 server gives you much more flexibility at the end and a proven high availability solution, even if it's in one data center or if you stretch it between 2 data centers. And everybody who was really good in IT knows, okay, 2 nodes, we are talking about a cluster here. Yep, that's correct. It's a storage cluster. And a cluster needs some kind of witness, neutral storage host or quorum, doesn't matter how you call it. But our witness is a bit different here. Our witness is just a service which you can run on a QNAP NAS, for example, on your backup server, in the cloud, or even on a Raspberry Pi for heartbeat recognition and, yeah, to avoid failure scenarios at the end. But the synchronous mirroring here is key because it's a transparent failover and failback between 2 nodes. Oh, what you can also do, if you are running a larger on-premise infrastructure, you can easily add on top of this scenario here other ESX hosts, for example, where we then act as a normal SAN solution to these servers, so you can provide storage from this installed base to other application servers as well, to be a bit more flexible and to, if you need to extend the performance here, adding new ESX hosts on top of it or other hosts. And the logical evolution for us then in 2024 in the beginning was to open up our drawer and put something out the drawer which we've already have had in production, but we thought the world will spin as it were before, and we don't need to, or we can still rely on VMware at the end. But SVHCI was then coming out, coming back on stage very quickly as we open up the drawer. And now we can provide you based on our SVZAN, which is then the foundation of everything at the end, plus adding virtual network, our own hypervisor based on the same KVM, QEMU code, plus management, a full stack solution within StorMagic. And the scenario here is more or less the same scenario because we are now having, or we are owning everything. So there's no need for another additional virtual machine, blah, blah, blah. You get out of us a full stack solution installing SVHCI on a commodity x86 server. Do the same thing with the synchronous mirroring, the failover based on the fact that we are owning the storage stack as well is under 30 seconds or 30 seconds, how marketing put it. And what is also very positive, or where you can definitely rely on, is the most critical thing here from my perspective and what I've heard from our customers. How can I move easily and quickly from my current installed base over to StorMagic SVHCI? How can I get rid of what I've already have when it comes to my VMware scenario? Because this is sometimes taking ages. Well, ages a bit too much, days or weeks, depending on the size of the infrastructure. And this is where, yeah, Steve is coming into play, because he can show you easily how reliable, easy to manage StorMagic SVHCI is, and how we can move from VMware to StorMagic SVHCI with only a blink of an eye. A bit too much, but let's see how easy it can be. Steve, stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Tobias. Okay, let me share out my screen, and thank you for setting the scene for the demo. Let's just.
And by the way, use the Q&A chat. I'm monitoring it. Happy to answer questions right along the live demo or at the end.
Okay, so now it's time for me to showcase a few things. I'm going to be concentrating on two demo environments. I've got so we're talking about SVHCI, and we're going to be looking at our hyper-converged infrastructure, our own hypervisor that Tobias has been discussing. I've got two environments. One is a nested. So this is typically would be a bare metal install, but I've got a nested environment for doing some of the demo, including the failover. So we're going to actually do a proper failover here and demonstrate how resilient our technology is. And what we'll see there is a virtual machine fail across onto a surviving node. We'll have that witness doing that core and logic, and we'll be fully operational on that single node. So we're going to look at that. And the reason we're doing that in a nested environment is that it's easy for me to power on a virtual machine rather than go and power on a physical server or unplug a physical server. They're not sat behind me, they're in a data center. So, and then the second lab is purely going to be focusing on our really cool feature, the warm imports. So it's a Python script. We're going to run that. We're going to grab hold of a virtual machine in a VMware environment, and we're going to import it into SVHCI, and we're going to go through those iterations, that process, and discuss how that all fits together, and provide some use cases behind that. So this first lab that I've got here, you can see I'm on in my vCenter here. I've got a couple of SVHCI nested nodes there. If I come on to this screen here, this is the management interface of one of those nodes. So this is node 1. I've got node 2 here. So when you're installing this, if you're installing this bare metal, it's mount the ISO in ILO, iDRAC, xClarity, whatever. You run through that installation process. You effectively choose the storage that you're going to install the hypervisor to. There's some initial networking configuration, the sort of management IP address, DNS servers, those kind of things. You run through those steps. You then license the product at the end, give your node a name. I've called mine SVHCI1 here. Join it, add it to a domain name, and then you're good to go. You come to this screen here. Details of the licensing. If I scroll through here, we've got system information here. All of the actions that we can do on the left-hand side here. So if we were going to be, doing an upgrade of the firmware, this is all done here. Changing of license keys, system diagnostics, all of that's done on the system page here. But once we come in, the first thing that you would do is configure the network, and it has a similar look and feel a little bit to ESXi. We'll create a port group here for my management interface, and that's on LAN vSwitch here. That's created at the point of install. And then I'll be creating a couple of Switches for my iSCSI and mirroring traffic. So typically in our 2-node solution with our witness somewhere in the cloud or on our data center, we would have a management interface, and that can be back to back, and we'd have 2 iSCSI, perhaps 10 gigs, doing that connection there for the iSCSI and mirroring traffic. So those would be set up, and then we create our interfaces here. So I've got my management address on this 1010 IP address range, and then I've got my 2 back-to-back on 192 addresses there. And you do exactly the same on the other node here. So this is its partner node, SVHEIO2. And then once you've done that, you come into the discovery here and you cluster the 2 nodes together. So you can see here I've got both my nodes in the members, they're in my cluster. I've got my witness, which is this StorMagic plugin. This happens to be in my VMware environment, and I've got everything configured there. From a storage perspective, I've got down here my boot pool, which is where I've got my installation. Very lightweight install as well, 300 megabyte installation file. We need 32 gig of space, which is where we keep the journal disk, log files, and so forth. And then I've created a pool storage here. It's only a small amount, 100 gig. Imagine this is 2 terabytes, 6, 12. And that's what we're going to be using to do those mirrored targets. You can see up here, I've got 3 mirrored targets here. They're synchronized on both sides. And that's the beauty of our solution. When anything is written down to the storage, it has to be committed on both sides, synchronized to create that high availability there. What's different with SVHCI is there is no file system. So imagine in VMware, you've got your VMFS, and we're perhaps managing those data stores. In SVHCI, there is no file system. It's block level storage, and what we're mirroring is the virtual machine disks. The virtual machine configuration files are held in our software, in our IP, on both sides. But it's just the targets that are mirrored for that high availability. When we protect a virtual machine, it's creating 2 copies of the virtual machine disk. If we look at the virtual machines, I've got 3 virtual machines here. You can see 2 of them are on host 1. One of them is on host 2 there. Various actions that you can do here. We can create a virtual machine. I'm not going to run through this because we don't have the time, but you'd give your virtual machine a name, you give it some memory, some CPU, add the network. So we add their management network here. We can add a controller, we can add a disk. So this is the hard disk. We can then enable the protection on that. So when we create this virtual machine, it will create a mirrored copy of that on the other node. We can add a CD-ROM, so we can mount an ISO. And in fact, if I come back down here, that's one of the options on the menu on the left-hand side. So we can upload disk images onto our pooled storage, ISOs for Ubuntu, Windows, and then we can mount those when we create their virtual machines, spin them up, and off we go to create those guest VMs. We can also import OVFs and OVAs. And we've got our warm import utility, which I'm going to showcase at the end. That'll be the final piece. If I go into one of these virtual machines, we can also take snapshots. So we can enable snapshots and take snapshots of the virtual machines. We could power this virtual machine off and do an application consistent snapshot, or we can do a crash consistent snapshot if it's powered on. We can take up to 16 snapshots and we can export those out as OVFs. We also are integrated with Veeam, albeit it's agent-based backups. We are working very closely with Veeam at the moment for agentless. That is coming out at the end of this year, in the autumn time. So we're really excited about that because I think that will be a real game changer for us. So full snapshot capabilities here, copy on write. You can export those out as OVFs. all good stuff there. Right, so just moving along from an operational perspective, what makes StorMagic really good, when you've got your workloads running and you need to do some maintenance work, we can simply migrate virtual machines from one host to another, and that allows us to then put the other node in maintenance mode. We can do whatever we need to do, whether it's a hardware change, whether it's firmware updates, whether it's our own hypervisor update. We can do that with non-disruptively. So you architect our solution so that you can have all of the guest VMs running and working on a single node in the event of doing maintenance, and also if you have an outage. And we're going to simulate a power outage on one of the nodes in a few minutes. But quite simply, from an operational perspective, I wanted to move these guest VMs. You've got these actions here. I can migrate that virtual machine. It's done pretty quickly, less than 30 seconds. Typically, you get some information here that it's running, a progress, and you can see up here in this widget that it's moving this Windows virtual machine from host 1 onto host 2. Other options that we have available here, shut down, and we can VNC onto those. So that's moved across nicely. So you can see here we've just got one node running on our on host 1 here. So use cases, as I mentioned, if you're doing maintenance work. Also, in this current climate where hardware is becoming difficult to get hold of and it's very costly, if you've got some old hardware, you can do rip and replace. So we can even take down a whole server, replace it, rebuild those mirrors between the two nodes. And in this climate, a lot of our customers are sweating out older hardware and repurposing hardware for this very reason. So what I'm going to showcase now, you can see here we've got 2 VMs running on host 2, and we've got Ubuntu 02 running on host 1. I am going to simulate a failover. So as I described earlier, this is in a nested environment. So what I'm going to do over here, come back to my VMware environment. There is my host 1. And this would be the equivalent of pulling the cables out. So if I make this real, we've got customers with lots of edge locations, remote locations, unmanned. Maybe the power is not particularly reliable there. They've got 2 nodes running on different power distribution units. And let's just say one of the power distribution units goes down. I'm literally going to power off this host. Okay, I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to click on virtual machines. This is going to refresh. And what we're going to see, if I can grab it quickly, is that virtual machine is going to start up. It's going to, you can see it's powered off because we've literally just pulled the plug on host 1 where it was sat. This status will change in a minute and it will come back up. And there it is. So we now have all of those virtual machines running on that surviving node. I can go and VNC into that and just check, see what it's doing. So it's still spinning up. Those other 2 guest virtual machines wouldn't have been impacted there. So that's running. Now, if we go and have a look at the targets, we're going to see these in a degraded state. So the storage is offline on host 1 because we literally just killed that host. So we're unsynchronized. At this moment in time, we're still operational. The witness that was up in the cloud has done that quorum logic. This host 2 is now the leader, and any write IO down to the storage is being captured on that host in our journal, change block tracking. So that when host 1 comes back up, we're going to see some resynchronization of those block changes, those IO changes. So it doesn't synchronize the whole target, it's just the IO changes. And that can be relatively quick depending on how long the host has been down and how much IO has been written to the storage. So let's come back over here. Let's just say that our power has been restored. I'm going to power this host back up. And if we come back over here, what we're going to see here, hopefully, if we capture it, it might go very quickly, is that there'll be some resyncs of those targets. So if we're now writing down to the storage on that side, we'll see that happen very quickly. And we'll get back to this online state and we'll have both sides of the mirror synchronized, which is what we want. So all I've done really here, while we're waiting for that to happen, is I've pulled the plug on a host. I've simulated that failover. We saw that Ubuntu 02 failed across onto node 2, started up on that side, non-disrupt. I didn't have to intervene there at all. The HA technology, SVHI, is doing all of that HA. And then what we should see now, there you go, bit of blue there. It's resynchronizing those targets. 2 of them have come back online. We've still got 2 in a degraded state. This will complete very quickly. And now we're back to how we were before I pulled the plug on host 1. This is StorMagic, SVSAN and SVHCI, 15 years, proven technology, proven resilience at the edge, at the data center. All I've done is just powered a server off, powered it back on. The technology has taken care of the environment. It's migrated, it's moved across HA, virtual machines, and we're back up online when that power came back up, all synced, and we're back to how we were. So that's a failover that we've done. The last piece that I'm going to go through in a minute is the warm import utility, which I think you're going to find really, really interesting. And just before I say it, we're a 2-node solution with a witness. We've got customers, our largest customers, 6,500 locations, 2 nodes with a witness. The witness can provide quorum logic for up to 1,000 clusters. So from a cost perspective, reliable, rock solid technology, we are a very, very good use case at the edge in that small data center space. Right, so let's just come out of that lab and go into this lab. So what I'm going to do here is look at migrating this Windows 2025 virtual machine. It's a small virtual machine for the purposes of this demo. It's a 20 gig hard drive, and it's currently sat on ESXi1, this host here. So we're going to go and take a look at that host. I'll come up here because I want to just point out a few things on the networking. This has a management interface 192.168, and it also has a couple of V switches. And I want you to just keep an eye on this IP address here, 172.16.1.1. This is the network. This is the IP address that we're going to be pulling this virtual machine across with our warm import script when we trigger that. So just keep that in mind. So this is the virtual machine that we're going to bring across. We can do multiple virtual machines, but I'm just going to import this one virtual machine across. Now, we're operating on some physical servers here. So we've got some HP DL145s, Gen 11s. And we can have some flexibility in how we do the warm imports. I am actually just going to import this onto a single node, so it won't be protected. I can then protect that afterwards and create that mirror between the 2 nodes. But for the purposes of the demo today, I'm literally going to be pulling that virtual machine over into this node 2 here. This node has an IP address of 10.40.0.34. If I come down here and open up my script, this is the Python script that I'm going to be using. Let's just move that out of the way. So we're calling upon the host name of the SVHCI node. We're passing the password through there. This host name IP address, that IP address that I was referring to. So we're going to an individual ESXi host. We could go to a vCenter. The root and the password of that, the virtual machine name, -- pool is the storage that I'm going to put this on, -- warm, and then power. Now, if I wanted to make this highly available and protect this virtual machine on the initial warm import, I could just put this parameter in as well, -- remote -- pool, and then the pool name there. But I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to bring it in onto that single node. If I just go to the network here, you can see our management IP address is on this 1040, but I have this 172.16.1 address, which is where we're going to be bringing that virtual machine across. So let's run the script and see what happens. So I've already got this in ready to go. So kick that off. Let's do refresh there. Ooh. Just one sec. I don't know why that's done that, because that shouldn't be there. Somebody else might be in my lab. Let's just cancel that a minute. And let's just kick that off again. The wonders of live demos, eh? All right, let's just do that again. So that's cancelled that. Let's fire that off. And if so we can see now, I don't know what happened there. Maybe somebody was in my lab earlier. But you can see that the warm import is kicking off there. It's running at 11%. And it's doing disk 1 of 1. And what it's doing, the process that's happening here is the script triggers a snapshot of the virtual machine. And it's called StorMagic warm import. And it's a non-QoS snapshot, so as not to impact the VM production. This is the beauty of the warm import. It's doing it in network, and it's doing it across that link, but it's also the virtual machine is staying on in VMware world, so users can continue to do that, and it gives that flexibility that if you've got a maintenance window at the end of the day where you do the final cutover, you can trigger this off at any point. I mean, this is a small virtual machine. Imagine you've got to get 20 terabytes across. This is going to take a few hours to do. So you can keep that running, and it's doing iterations and then sort of copying that data across and then consolidating that data on disk. So it could take 8 hours, and at the end we have that final cutover, and then we can, when the final cutover is done, it does the last piece, it does that final iteration to make sure the data is across, and then effectively you power off the virtual machine and it comes up in SVHCI world. So this is what I'm going to hopefully show you in a minute. In terms of the storage, I can go and have a look at the storage statistics here to show that data is coming across. Hopefully you can see this in here. So we can see we've got about 90 megabytes per second there coming across. If I come over to VMware, let's have a look at what it's doing. I'll show you that snapshot that it's created. So it's the StorMagic warm import there. If I wanted to go and have a look at the networking, I could go in here and look at the graphs, but I've already showcased really what we're seeing over in SVHCI world. You see this coming across here. And if we come back to our virtual machines, what we should see is this. When this hits 80%, we'll get a message to say we're ready to cut over. So we would need to shut down this Windows 2025 in VMware world, and you'll do that final step. And this process is about 5 or 6 minutes. this is taking. You can see it's going through a number of iterations. We'll confirm those iterations on the VMware side in a minute. So we've got to 80%. We should see now here shutdown required. So this is the flexibility. We could actually script it to do all of this in one go. But what I like about this is that the user controls when they want to cut across this virtual machine into SVHCI. So if I come back over here, we come over to, there's our virtual machine. Now, if I had VM tools on here, I'd be able to shut this down. I'm going to have to just log on to that. The console here, Control-Alt-Delete. Let's log in there. Helps if I can type the password correctly. It's in now. Let's just shut that down. There we go, it's coming back up. And we come in here. We're going to just shut this guest down as required. Click continue. So that's shutting down now. If I come back over to here, we should see this start to finish off that warm import. It'll do this final, and this is relatively quick. This takes maybe a minute or so, and that will suddenly shoot up to 100%. We'll see the virtual machine appear here. And you can see these current virtual machines here are unprotected. If I wanted to protect those, I can just edit those, protect them and create the mirror with its partner there. So this will continue to run. Let's just do a little refresh. Yeah, it's shut down over in Windows 2025. It's shut down there. If I look at the events as well, I just want to show you this. What it creates, that whole iteration, snapshot, iteration, copy data, and consolidation. You can see there, virtual machine disk consolidation succeeded. So you can track all of the events over in VMware. That's powered off now, that virtual machine. If I come back over here, you can see now warm import, Win 2025 complete. That took around about 6 minutes to do. I can now VNC onto that virtual machine. There it is, log in, do my checks. Now with some operating systems, so all of that virtual machine configuration has come across the MAC address. One thing that sometimes you need to go re-IP the NIC, depends on the operating system, but we've in 6 minutes done a warm import of a guest virtual machine out of VMware into SVHCI. We are doing this for our customers, existing SVSAN customers. We have a customer that needs to be off VMware, I think by the end of October. We're a third of the way through 1,000 locations, 2 nodes, SVSAN on VMware. We are helping them migrate in a structured approach into SVHCI as an alternative to VMware at the edge. So that's the end of the demo. Thank you very much. I hope it's been useful, and we'll hand back and take some questions if there are any questions.
So we have already one. Thank you very much, Steve, for the live demo. And there's one question about the warm import piece. So the question is, let me read it. Hello, so at 80% progress of warm import, the data is now fully copied over SVHCI, question mark?
Right, so if I go back to let's say we've got a large VM and it's 20 terabytes, that is going to take a long period of time. We only had maybe 7 or 8 iterations. So it does that initial snapshot, it starts copying data, it gets to that 80%, and it's done pretty much 99% of that data. Your users hopefully will be off at that point when you want to do the cutover. That cutover does that final quiescing, okay, and captures the data to complete that migration. So the 80% is that cutover where that virtual machine can still be running and IO and everything else. But once you power down that virtual machine, it does that final quiescing and copying the data across. And then that last 20% you saw was pretty quick. And then you're into SVHCI. If you want to roll back and you've decided that actually you're not happy with that, you simply just shut down the virtual machine in SVHCI, delete it, power your virtual machine back up in VMware, and continue working on what you need to do if you're not happy with that import. As I say, all of the configuration comes across the MAC address. Sometimes and it's operating system dependent. The IP address will need re-IPing. Certainly for Windows servers, that's the case. For Linux, Ubuntu servers, it comes across with everything.
Great. Another question, Steve. Is a cluster size limited to 2 nodes and remote witness?
Right. So with SVHCI at the moment, we have customers that have single node, so we can run as a single node. 2 node for the clustering, with the witness being somewhere in the cloud. Or the witness, the important thing about the witness is it has to be off the cluster. That's the key thing. But it can go pretty much anywhere, as you mentioned, Toby. We are going multi-node with SVHCI at the end of this year. That is on the roadmap, along with the Veeam agentless backup. And that's going to open a lot more doors. We can have compute-only nodes with our multi-node clustering. But at the moment, today, it's 2 node with that witness for SVHCI. For SVSAN, we still do the 3 node, and then we scale up in pairs. But for SVHCI, single node, 2 node, multi-node coming at the end of the year. Great question.
Thank you, Steve. And the third question is related to me, I guess. How StorMagic Solutions, HCI, SVSAN is licensed and priced. Per node, this is how we are licensing our 2 solutions. We still have a perpetual option for SVSAN in place, but we are moving more and more into subscription only, which is also the case when it comes to SVHCI. This is purely available in a subscription license model. And at the moment, and maybe this is the perfect time for giving you an overview about our promotions to give you an idea. And this is purely based on, what we are striving here is to promote our SVHCI solution. If you remember the slide where I presented to you how SVHCI is built, the full stack solution to the basement is SVSAN. That means that we are currently licensing with SVSAN as well as with SVHCI the usable raw capacity of the storage you would like to have high available. For example, we are starting at 2, then 6, 12, 24, 48, and unlimited terabyte capacities. And with our current promotions, if you are deciding to go with an SVSAN solution, you will get our Hypervisor SVHCI at the moment for free. That means you are able to say, okay, I need to have a proper high available storage solution with my current environment, because I would like to move away in the future from VMware to something else, maybe to SVHCI. But I need a high available storage for this movement at the end, because storage is key in any scenarios here. Then you can use your existing or newer hardware, your x86 hardware. And in a point of time, maybe next year, when you are not able to or allowed to renew your contract with VMware, you can then say and come back to us to StorMagic and say, okay, now I would like to pick the card of using SVHCI for free, and we will provide you then the SVHCI image and license keys for free as promised, or you can start from the very first beginning. Another great opportunity here is to go with our unlimited terabyte capacity option, where you can receive 30% of MSRP pricing at the moment, which is then closely or a bit more than our 24 terabyte solution per node. And what you can also use, or what you can also get, is our whole feature set for free. So if you would like to run a mixture of spinning disks and SSD disks, you can then use our predictive storage caching to get the best out of these two storage solutions. Our key management is for free available at the moment, as well as our encryption feature. So perfect fit for every edge location, for example, where you need then a proper key management and encryption as well. Hopefully this answers the question how we are licensing. So in a nutshell, again, per node, and at the moment per terabyte. This will change at some point in the future with SVHCI, but at the moment it is purely on usable terabyte capacity, raw capacity. So even if you are getting a nice little offer out there at the moment, which I don't think this is the case, but let's make this up, 40 terabyte in an x86 server for $30, and you only need 12 terabyte of high available capacity, then you can go with our 12 terabyte license. You don't need to license the whole capacity which is inside the server, but only the capacity you would like to have high available at the end.
I think
no more questions at the moment in the Q&A.
No, I just wanted to plug that video as well. I think Jalesia is going to post that on the chat. There is a really, really good warm import video that Mark Christie, our field CTO, has done. It's a 20-minute going end to end on the warm import. Goes into it a little bit more detail than I've had the opportunity today. So well worth a watch to back up what you've seen today.
This is what we definitely also include in our dedicated landing page for this webinar, which I will share with Julia and team afterwards. So you have one-stop destination available at the end with our presentation, the case studies we've provided, or Julia provided over the day, over this hour, and the other additional videos.
Okay, so I think that's it for today. And just as Tobias mentioned, there will be a follow-up email. We will share with you all the useful links and also a link to this webinar recording. And as for today, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Tobias. It was really interesting and really useful. And if there are more questions, always welcome to reach out to Hermitage Solutions. The contact information is there in the chat. And well, see you next time then.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.